All right. I think it's about time. Yeah, we can start. So I realized I haven't made it really clear during the summaries in the description and stuff, but this talk will be about live activities, which is an exclusive feature that runs on iPhones, iOS. So in this talk, we'll talk a lot about how it works on iPhone and everything about iPhone. So just to let you know. So I want to ask a quick question. Is anyone here an iOS developer or has done some kind of iOS development? Please raise your hand to let me know. OK, cool. Nice, fellow iOS developers. So for non-iOS developers, you don't have to worry. This is will not go very detailed into code, but more of a high-level decision and product decisions and UI decisions on how we build this feature and the experience of us building it and the problems we encountered. So don't worry about the very details of the code. You should be able to understand completely fine. Forza Football, has anyone heard or used it here? Oh, quite a lot. Thank you. Thank you for supporting us. When Apple first added the keynote, I guess every iOS developer or interested in Apple, they will watch the keynote when they do their other presentations. During the last year, during WWDC, when they announced this feature that, OK, we're going to do live activities during June at WWDC, we were super excited since they say, OK, this is the first time you'll get access to a lock screen. You can update things live and real live on the lock screen. We got super excited, and then in September, they released iOS 14 Pro, which has the dynamic island, which is a completely new thing. And they say, OK, you can run things on there as well. And then, of course, we got super excited since we are football live score app, and we want to show live score everywhere. So yeah, we got really excited. And this is how we done after Apple made this available to us and what we did. I'm here to share with you. So just a short summary about us. Forza Football, we're working on this live score app since 2012. We are a very small team, around 30 people, and we're based in West Coast Sweden, in Gothenburg. And we're quite lucky that we were self-sustainable quite early in the beginning of our app. So we have no investors, so no investors to push us to do weird things. You have to do growth hack. You have to do some weird stuff to grow. So we always had product, how the user experience in front, and we are not forced to do things that we think is not good for the user. So we're kind of lucky in that, and we're also very proud of it. So, all right, this is the short agenda that we're going to talk today. First, I'll explain that what is a live activity. Secondly, is on a higher level, and how does it work, and the design, the iterations we go through, and the thoughts behind it. And then the data flow. How do we update live activities? Because updating them is a little bit different from the main app. You have a lot of restrictions. And then slightly about iOS 17 that will be released, which Apple announced an event, I think yesterday. So it means iOS 17 will be released soon, next month. There's some new stuff there as well, and hopefully some QA. So let's get started. First, so what is a live activity? So I want to get into this first because this actually happened a lot with our users, not just with our users, but also within the team as well. Because there are several similar stuff to live activity that is confusing. Sometimes even our team members, they got confused as well. So at first, I explain what is not a live activity. So this is called home screen widgets. Maybe you used it before. There's many apps that implement this. So this thing appears on your home screen. And this was announced in iOS 14. We also got very excited when this was announced because we thought this would be our access to the home screen as well. But turns out this basically works similar if you have an Apple Watch. The watch faces on there, it works similarly the same. How you update it is you give the system a timeline. And you tell the system, OK, at this time, at 10 a.m., tomorrow show this, 11 a.m. show this, 12 p.m. show this. So it has a very limited refresh capabilities in our testing. Sometimes it takes 15 minutes to get one update. So you can imagine 15 minutes is definitely not good for a live score. but it's good for slower data. For example, for calendar, for weather, for match fixtures, upcoming matches. This will be quite perfect. So yeah, we also implemented this and tried out live score. It kind of works, but yeah, it's not great. So this is home screen widgets. And on iOS 16, there's new stuff called lock screen widgets. So this is basically the same as the home screen widgets, but now they're moved to lock screen. And you have even more restrictions here since the lock screen is more crowded with stuff. So Apple made it smaller. So in this screen, you can see 3 lock screen widgets. One on top says Forza Football. That is actually a widget that you can show some text, and a user taps it, it goes to an app. And on the right says Manchester United against another team, and that is a rectangular widget. It shows the next picture, and you tap it and go to an app. And there's a small football icon. You tap it, go to the app. So these are lock screen widgets as well. We have them implemented. But in terms of live score, it's not what we want yet. So these two are sometimes confused with live activities, and user will say, OK, why the live score is not showing here? Then we have to explain that, OK, this is not the real thing. The real thing is coming up, which I'm going to talk about. So just a quick comparison of it. On the most right one is the live activity. In the middle is lock screen. And the biggest one is the home widgets. So back to the point. What is live activity? So Apple gave us a definition. It's quite long. Displays up-to-date information from the app, allowing people to view in progress at a glance. So it's quite long. I highlighted it for you. Two most important parts that we need to keep in mind during the whole talk: up-to-date information and at a glance. So these two are the most important things that you need to think about when we implement live activities. And here are some examples of the live activities that is already live. You can try it out in your app right now. On the most right one is the Uber one. I guess everyone knows what it does. Call a taxi. And when you wait, it shows on your lock screen. It shows, OK, how soon the car will arrive, your taxi will arrive. And the middle one is a parking app. You park at the place, you start your parking meter, and it shows how long you parked and how much you have to pay. And on the left one is probably the most familiar one. If you're using iPhone, it's the now playing live activity. Apple calls it live activity, but it's actually a very special live activity that they're using stuff that only they can use that we cannot use. But yeah, it's still a live activity. Yes, so these are the quick examples, and now I'm going to explain how this live activity works. On the keynote, of course, Apple tells you, OK, you have access to the lock screen, you have access to dynamic island, you can do real-time updates. It's going to be so great. But there's a lot of stuff they don't talk in the keynote that you'll find later that Apple doesn't tell you. What it doesn't tell you, live activity cannot launch by itself. You cannot set, OK, my live activity wants to launch 2 hours or 1 hour before the match. No, you cannot do that. Live activities can only be started if the user starts the app and do some explicit action. So if they tap a button, or they have clear intention that they did something in the app, then you start a live activity, and you go back, you leave the app, the live activity starts to appear. So this is a very, very big limitation that kind of unexpected to us. And the second, once the live activity starts, it runs in a separate process, but it cannot make network requests, it cannot read location updates. That kind of blew our mind, right? Like you want to do live activities, you want to do live updates, but you cannot make network requests. How does it work? So it says you can only update from push notifications, or your app runs in background. But as you know, on iOS, not every app is created equal that you can run in background. Only special type of apps you can run in background. For example, music apps, you play audio for a long time. If navigation apps, you have to keep running in the background. Or VoIP apps that you make calls. Those apps can run, but LiveScore app is not listed, so we cannot run indefinitely in the background. So that's a bummer for us. During that time, we also encountered a lot of problems, but kind of expected, but still a lot of trouble for us. Since a new feature, there's missing a lot of documentation. It doesn't even say okay, what if we follow the SDK? So we started live activity, and nothing happens. Okay, what now? We don't know, and it behaves in a weird way. There's no documentation on how it starts, it works, and it behaves quite weird in start. There's nothing documentation on that we can follow. Beta version bugs, expected, and I will show some in the later, crazy ones. And third one, no reference in human interface guidelines. So if you're not familiar with human interface guidelines, it's a very extensive document published by Apple. It describes mostly on Apple platforms, like how should you do the navigation, how do you organize your content, how should interactive elements should be, how they should place, how do you think about your how to present your stuff through your phone or Mac to a user. So it's kind of like a golden standard that even if you're not a developer, like any designer, I would recommend reading that because it's like the golden standard. But live activity, since such a new feature, is not included in the HIG, which is a human interface guideline. So we're kind of, okay, should we do this? Should we do that? It's unclear. Like, it's a completely new territory. And this was really, really troublesome because live activity runs in a separate process. You cannot attach debugger. So anything bad happens, it doesn't start, it doesn't update. We don't know why. Like, it's, yeah, and you think, okay, I can do print, but no, like, often you don't see that as well. So yeah, that's really hard. Related to that, of course, hard to debug pushes. If you have worked with push notifications before, it's kind of hard because system handles it. It doesn't give you much information, but yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Lastly, no existing implementation. Of course, this is a problem that we expect. This is a complete new context, very special, and the screen asset we can use is very, very small. So yeah, we tried a lot of things here. I will show them later as well. But it seems like I've been complaining about Apple for until now for 10 minutes, I guess. But actually, I have to say that Apple has done doing really well, like improving on this part for the past several years. They have a lot of workshops that you can attend. They even have one-on-one sessions, like you can have direct contact within someone in Apple, and then you can ask questions, and they will ask the engineer team on how it happens. Before, it was, you have a question, you submit this link, you get a report, and that's it. After 5 years, it's still there. It's still open. You don't know anything about it. But now you have sometimes someone who contacts you in Apple, and you can have email conversations, and they'll get much faster feedback. So that's nice. And also, there's developer forum. But yeah, that's another place you can struggle with other iOS developers, like, oh, this doesn't work. And everyone says, doesn't work, doesn't work, doesn't work. So share the struggle together. Right. So let's start with the design. But by design here, I mean specifically to UI design. So with UI design, there are the three things I want to talk about. First is specifications. So this is how much screen assets we can work with and how we can design it, basically. So this is the limitation that Apple gives us, and we have to work with that. And secondly is the goals, what we want to bring to the users. What do we want to do with this feature, and what value does it bring to the user? So this is the goals. And third is iterate, since this is a very new thing. So we continually change, try different stuff. And I will share a lot of screenshots here on what we tried and what we think it works and didn't work. So these are three things I'll talk about. First, briefly go to specifications. Live activities, it appears in two places. First is the lock screen. So it works on every iPhone. It will appear on the lock screen. And for those who have iOS 14 Pro, it will have dynamic island, and it will also appear on that. But here we have to note that if you want to support live activities, you have to support both. So you cannot say, okay, I just want the lock screen, dynamic island is not that useful to us, it's too small, we don't want to use it. No, you cannot do that. If you do that, you'll get rejected. So you have to support it. All right, so lock screen, pretty standard. I showed you before with real screenshots, so this is like a quick mock on it. So how it appears, it defaults appear on the bottom part of your screen, and you can have multiple ones. An app can start multiple live activities. Multiple apps can start multiple activities as well. So you could be listed with your the live activity from your app, or you can list it with other live activities from other apps as well. So very limited space here, 160 pixels maximum. It could be smaller, but maximum 160 pixels. So yeah, straightforward with kind of straightforward with the lock screen. And here to the dynamic island. Dynamic island is more complicated. There are 3 states here, so I'll go through them first. This is the first state, which is compact. This happens when you only have one live activity running on your phone. So when in this state, you have the whole top, the top bar or left, right of the sensor to yourself, and it's split into two sections, the leading part and the trailing part. And of course, in the middle, it's a capsule shaped of face sensors, RFID stuff, so you cannot show anything there. It's a black thing. So you have leading and trailing. And the second state is minimal. When there are 2 or more live activities running, system will pick the most 2 important ones and either show you in the front, in the trailing, or in the leading, or in the trailing part. You do not know where you're showed, and it becomes also tricky as well, because apparently you can tell when you appear in the front or in the back, the space you can use a little bit different. On the back, it's completely a capsule. On the left, you have a capsule, but you have like 2 more edges that comes out that merges with the sensor housing. So it's a bit different. And if you long tap in any states, you will go to the expanded state, which is this one, which is more similar to the lock screen one. With 3 listed, you have to keep in mind that you can switch states between any of these 3 at any time. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. With Dynamic Island, before we have limited space, now we have extremely limited space. And with 3 different states, you have different screen size to work with, but the data backing it is exactly the same. So you decide on the fly on what do you want to show. And here, Apple did not provide any specification on how the dimensions these are. So how far wide you can go, top is the same, height is the same, it's 160 pixels maximum, but how wide can you go? Like how far can you get to edges? Can you show images? Can you do animations? Can you do actions? Layouts like paddings, are there system default paddings that you cannot cross? There's nothing specified in there. So what we have to do here, of course, we try to gauge it ourselves. So this is some of our attempts we tried. Okay, the most right one, simple. Okay, we show 2 images. Okay, it works. How far can we go? Apparently, we can go as far left as possible, which that means blocking the time and the network status and the battery. So maybe not that great, but okay, you can do that. And the third one with the green, the green background. This is where you can tell that both green boxes are 45 points wide, but on the trailing one, it's complete capsule. But the other one, you can see there's some extra padding on the left and right. So when you're designing that, you have to keep in mind that, okay, you maybe have in the capsule one, you have the perfect padding, perfect layout, but you could appear on the other side, which looks a bit different. So something to keep in mind on that. There's another interesting behavior we found when we're testing. So I'm going to play a short screen recording on it. When you leave the app, the live activity shows up. It shows up quite big, not as you specified, and then it kind of shrinks a little bit during 4 seconds. So let's play that. It shrinks a little bit. So yeah, this is kind of interesting behavior, but we found out you don't actually get more stuff. It's just a thing interesting that the system does, and you have no control on it, and yeah, just like that. It's just a small detail. Of course, after 1 year now, Apple have finally released those, so if you're implementing now, you have more detailed documentation on that, how much screen assets you can work with. So yeah, but that's now. All right, so done with the specifications. Now we have the goals. So what do we want to bring to the users? First, we want to show the most relevant information about matches, especially live matches, since that's what we do. Secondly, since it appears on the home screen for iOS 14, for iPhone 14 users, and also on the lock screen, so we don't want to be too intrusive. We don't want to be like flashing or too color intensive to grab too much attention away from users' home screen, lock screens, because most users have very strong preference on how their home screen and lock screen should work. And thirdly, we want to reflect our existing style. So it's better that, okay, it's not like we want to put our huge logo or Forza Football just like right in front. Okay, this is by Forza Football. We don't want to do that. We want the UI design in a way that, okay, just by looking at it, okay, you know it's from Forza Football. It's from the app that you use all the time, not by logo or branding stuff. So 3 main goals we want to do. So we started with the main views in our app. So if you're not familiar with the app, the main app that we have, I'll go through them really quickly. Under the middle one is the main screen that we have. It's the calendar view. We call it calendar view. So on the top, you'll see the today on the middle and upcoming days and before days. You can swipe between those to view matches of different days. Then coming down, you have the filter, which you can see just live matches and like TV schedules. We also have that. And then it will show your following teams, following competitions, the matches for that day. And below, there will be other matches, all other matches if you're interested. And if you select one of the matches, you tap it, then you go into the detail screen, which is on the side. On the top, you will have a nice header with larger team names and logos and the scores and the current time. On the below, there will be a lot of more information regarding this match. The most important one, of course, would be the events, the latest goals, substitutions, red cards, yellow cards, the kind of stuff. And then if you swipe left and right, there'll be lineups, statistics, and like tables or fixed tables or playoff trees, depending on which tournament you are. So these are the existing UIs that we have in the app, and we can already see that two good candidates that we can reuse in the live activities we want to do. So these are the 2 ones. On the white background one is the one from the main calendar view, which we call the match list, which is a list of matches. We could probably use them in our live activities. And the second one is from the match info page on the top. So nice background with a summary of the match. So let's try this in our live activity. The first try, we just put the the match list on the lock screen and see how much we can start. So this is kind of an early beta version, but at that time you can basically start unlimited amount of live activities. So you can just like hijack the user screen with like 100 ones. Like, yeah, this is pretty fun to work with at that time. But as you can tell directly, it's not very great. It doesn't look great. So we try with the other one, putting the nice summary view from the match info page into the lock screen. So now it actually looks much better. But the thing we don't like about this is the background. We think that the background actually takes too much attention away from the user's home screen. We don't want to be that colorful. We want to blend in more with the home screen, as we described before. So we removed the background, made some layout adjustments. So this is how we end up with. So we kind of like this. It's quite simple. You get a quick glance, and you know which teams are playing. You know the result. You know the match clock, latest event, and it looks nice. So yeah, this is how we went with. This is kind of the easier part first. The next part will be the fun part, also the hard part, which is the dynamic island one. So we now have the design for lock screen, and we want to fit all those information into maybe half the size or even half the size, like 1/3 of the size. We definitely cannot just zoom, cram everything into or overloading everything. So we need to go through it again, like everything that we have on the live matches, and see what is important. So actually, we have a lot of stuff that related to every match. So we have teams playing, we have team names, either use team names or team logos. We have the scores. Of course, this is very, very important. We have the match time. The match time, you can see if it's before the match, then it's kickoff time. If it's during the match, it's the current match minute. And if it's finished, then okay, we show as how the match is finished. Match events we also have. We have a lot of match events, injuries, substitutions, red cards, VAR events, which is crazy right now, like extra time and substitutions, all of that. We have tournaments, match days, depending on which league you're watching. We have lineup information, we have stats, we have playoff trees, tons of stuff. So, but for live activity or live matches, what is the most important? We think these four are the most important. The teams playing, it could either be the team name, the team color that we'll talk about, or the team logo. As long as the user will be easy to identify which team is it, it's good enough. The scores, of course, the match time, which is quite important since you want to know that how much progress had gone through the match. You would like to know that. And the match events, the latest match event. Did someone get a red card? Who scored the latest goal? That we think is the most important thing. So we went through many, many iterations. I'll start with the first one. We just tried, OK, we have the match list cell. We call it the match list cell. We just kind of OK, slapped it in, see how it works. It kind of looks like this. It's kind of OK, straightforward, but it looks out of place. It doesn't feel right? It looks like, OK, we just slam something in, and it's not, we don't want to show this to the user. Like, it works, but no. OK, so second iteration, we adjust the layout a bit. So for example, the green rounded corners, the capsules is the same, it looks, the same as the dynamic island, so it's more looks in place. Looks a bit better, but remember that live activity, if you're running, it is showed all the time. So although we show a lot of information in this screen, but we also block a lot of information. For example, the time, the battery status, the network status, which is very, very important to most of the users, and you don't want to block it for 90 minutes. For the game, it could be 90 minutes, because 120 minutes, and you're blocking that for 2 hours. That's definitely not great. So this is something to keep in mind as well. So let's move to the next revision. We try to shorten the width a bit, but then, of course, you can imagine, for example, on the bottom one, we shorten out, we have to give up some stuff. Then we think, OK, if the user has started live activity, maybe they will remember that, OK, this is the match they started, so we remove the logos and just have the score and the latest event. But yeah, after some time of using it, then we figured, actually, we have bad memory ourselves as well. So even if you start a live activity, after a while, you could not remember which live activity was. And of course, you can start multiple ones. So it could be either one. You started 2 matches. Is this match about the first one or the second one? It's very hard to tell. So this does not work as well. We also tried some weird ones. We just show latest events and see how it works. How does it feel? Yeah, of course, and it doesn't feel that good. You know the latest event. Someone get a red card. OK, when is it? When is it? Is it like starting out the match, or is it towards the end of the match? And how long ago did it happen? And did the score change? Like, it's not that useful. So yeah, it's good to try out, but OK, we know it doesn't work now. Here's another layout we tried. So we put logos on one side and the scores on one side. So yeah, this is one try. Why we wanted to try this is because when you have both leading and trailing, you can have this. But when you have just one of it, you want to be the leading or trailing to be same as the minimal one. So in this case, if it's, I don't have a screenshot here, but in this case, if it goes to the minimized state, we'll keep the score. So, and this comes the problem when it goes to minimized state, you just have the score, and you don't know which team it was. So this became a problem for us after a while. So this doesn't work. Next up, we tried with colors. So if you're in the minimized state, we show the logos on the one side, you show the scores on one side, and we add colors, because most teams have a prominent color. For example, here, if you're familiar with Premier League football, it's Crystal Palace and Leeds. So Crystal Palace has the dark blue, and Leeds has white. So when in the minimal state, you have these colors there. So when it goes to minimized state, which is the bottom screenshot, you have colors on its side. So indicating one is Crystal Palace and one is Leeds. We tried a lot of variations with the kind of colors. For example, this one, the previous one was straight, and since the screen assets we're working have the curved edges, so OK, we also tried with curved edges to use the screen a little bit better. We also tried another version that, okay, we just use the whole background and do a gradient between it to make it more prominent. So it's easier to tell the colors because, for example, on the previous side, the previous one, some colors could be harder to read. For example, the blue one on the black, it could be harder to read. So we went to make the color more prominent. But after us using a while, it seems that it doesn't work well for us as well because there's two main problems of it. For bigger teams that we follow, for example, Premier League teams, it's very easy to find the colors. But since in our app we support thousands of tournaments, like 10,000 or the teams, and actually for some teams we don't have a good color for it, so it doesn't work well for us. So eventually we gave up with the colors and we tried to do something with the logos. This is actually a variation that actually I personally like quite a lot. We don't show the full logo because we don't have the size, but we crop it a little bit. So on the side, you show it a little bit. And these are teams you are familiar with, so by just seeing some part of the logo, you know which team is playing. So we almost went with this version that I really like. But then after a few beta versions, we cannot do the same kind of layout anymore. We cannot push to the side like on the top screenshot. We cannot use it to that edge and like as we want it anymore. And the second problem is, as you can see on the top one, on the leading part as well, it kind of exposes the sensor housing. It indicates that there's something is blocking it, which Apple does not like as well. They say, okay, it's there, everyone knows it's there, but you should pretend it's not there and try to hide it's not there and not to expose it. So yeah, that's a bummer. So eventually, we went with this design. So we stacked them together. It looks very similar to the match list layout we have, home team, away team that's stacked together. And the logos, it's a bit smaller, but just with the colors or the shapes, it's quite easy to tell. And we have the live scores as well. And when in the minimize state, we have the minimal information, which is if the match is live, there's a green dot. You have the scores and the teams playing. You can know glanceable information like really quickly. Just take a glance and you know the information you want. And if it's a larger state, we also show a match clock, which is really nice to have. This is the final version we went through, what we have right now, and it's also live on the App Store, so if you want to try it out, this is what we end up with. All right, so during a lot of iterations, of course, we have to use some tools to help us with it, because as you can see, for the same design, it could be in different shapes and sizes, and it could be different states, like if there's a latest event, if it's match started or not, it's different scores. So we have a UI tool to help us. And by UI tools, I do not mean export previews, because Apple actually promised a lot with export previews that similar to the screen here. Like you have code on the side, you have live preview on the side, and what you see is what you get, right? Like you change the code and updates all lights on the side. It's like great promise. This is the best tool ever. But if once we try to use it, we know it doesn't work. Since it works well in a very small sample project, it compiles really fast. But for real projects, you have like 10,000 of source codes, you have like hundreds of dependencies, like ad frameworks, like tracking frameworks that you cannot get rid of, you just have to use. It just doesn't compile, or just takes lots of time to compile, and it's sometimes even slower than when you compile to simulator or to real devices. So this doesn't work. It probably will work eventually, but not now. So we have to do something by ourselves. So during the previous stage, when we are gauging the size of the live activities, we built something like this. So according to the size that we detected, we made our own version of live activities, but of course it doesn't live on the lock screen, it lives in our app. And it lays out content the same way as live activities or lock screens lay out it. And it is backed by real data structure that we'll talk in a bit. So this should be exact reflection of how it will look and work when they are in the island, dynamic island, or in the lock screen. And here we have even more control of it because, for example, on the most right screen, we can see at a glance in the light mode or dark mode that we have the support. And in the middle one, we can say, okay, this is the expanded mode in the home screen and different states of it. We can view it at the same time, like really quickly. On the most right screen is the minimized one, and we can view even more states. So here we have the pre-match, we have lineup, kickoff, score, goal without scores. So different states, we can view it at like very quickly in a very easy way. So this helps us to, iterate really, really fast to see how it looks and works in different designs. Because if you're asking the designer to update it, if you want to try this design, then he updates for like 3 different states and like black, dark, light conditions and different states. It takes a lot of time. But here, it's really, really fast. And even better here, we also included the JSON representation, which I will talk a little bit when we are talking about updating the live activities. We will have to use some kind of JSON to update it. So on the right screen, yeah, it's so you can in this screen you view all the possible states, the expanded, the minimum, the compact, and the JSON file, JSON format of it. This is also good as a very good live documentation. Like up until now, we use it very often. Since the best documentation is, they say it's code, but also this is always generated from the latest code and the latest UI we have. So it is always correct. It will not be updated, and it's always there in the apps for quick reference. So yeah, I would say this is probably the best documentation we have on live activities that we can use internally. So. All right, this is the design. So now we have a design. Let's talk about data flow. So data flow, 2 parts, data and flow. First, we will talk about data, how we design the data structures for the live activity. And secondly, we talk about how to update the live activity, which is the flow. So first, defining the data structure. Again, this is the final design that we come up with. We have the team playing, we have the scores, we have the match time, which has two different cases. It's either the kickoff time or the current match time. And we have the latest match events. So data structure like this, we need to split up into 2 types of data. So the first one we'll talk about is static data, which means this means that when you start the live activity, this data will not change during the whole life cycle of the live activity. For example, it's the team playing. If the match started, it will be 2 teams playing. It will not change to any other team. It will not change. The team name will not change. The logo will not change. And for once it started, the kickoff time is not going to change. The second part is this is how we defined it. This is a short bit of code. We call it, here we need to call it the attributes. So Apple call it the attributes. So the attributes means these will not change during the live activity, the whole life cycle. And we have here the match ID, the kickoff date, the home team, and away team. It should be straightforward. The second part, dynamic data, which will change during the whole live activity life cycle, which is the point, right? We want to update the scores. We want to update the match clock. We want to show the latest match events. So these are the dynamic data. We need to call them content state. Apple calls them content state. So this is the data structure that we use to update the live activity. So whenever you need to update live activity, you provide a structure of this. So here we define the match state as an enum, which have 3 cases. One is before, when the match hasn't started. One is live. When it's live, then we have the score or the optional match minute. For some matches, we don't have that much information on that. For example, lower leagues, some matches we don't have the information on that, so it will be optional. And after, which means the match is finished, then we have the score only. Don't have the match time. So in summary, we have a data structure like this. So every time you start a live activity, you need to provide all this information to iOS, to the system. And every time you update, you just provide the content state. This is the data structure that we work with. All right? And then now we have the data structure. let's talk about how to update the live activity. So as I mentioned before, there are two ways to update it. One is from the app, second is from push notifications. And as I mentioned before, we are a live score app. We cannot run indefinitely in the background, so we can only use push notifications. And to do push notification updates, there's several things we need to do. First, we need to provide a payload, which is the data that we want to provide. Secondly, we need to request a push token. And thirdly, we will talk about a little bit about the debug, how to debug this, since there are a lot of problems that could happen in this. And lastly, the update frequency of it, which is a very interesting topic as well. So start with APNS payload. For those who are not familiar, APNS stands for Apple Push Notification Service, which the thing that you have to use if you want to send push notifications to the app. And how it works is your app will ask the user, okay, this app we want to send a push notification. Will you allow that? I think most of you should see that. Like some apps do it when apps launch. They want to not send notifications. Do you want to allow that? If the user allows, the system gives you a token. Then you save that token. You can save it in the app or usually upload to your backend. And this is the process. And when you want to send a push notification, you provide your payload and with the push token, you send these two stuff to Apple server, which is the Apple push notification services. Then Apple will handle this data and find the correct device and send that push to that device. This is the only way of sending push notifications on iOS. Okay, and back here to the payload. You have worked with push notification payloads before. This is kind of standard. You provide a title, a body, and a sound, optional sound. But here we are updating the live activity. Why do we need to provide the title and body as well? Because we have a better layout, right? We don't just show text like push notifications. It's because when you are away from your phone, for example, but you have an Apple Watch, then these push notifications show up as well on your watch. But with your logo and on the bottom, there will be a small clock thing that indicates it's a live activity. So even if you're away from your phone, you will still get these kind of notifications. So you are required to provide title and message. All right, so the second part is directly related to updating live activity. You need to provide timestamp, events, which you want to update, and the relevance score. We'll not talk much about it, but it's basically telling how important this live activity is. And if it's higher, you go higher. If there's more live activity at the same time, you go higher up the list. And lastly is the content state. So remember the content state we defined before looks like this. So an instance of the content state, you will initialize it like this. So this means the match is live, the score is 0-0, the current match clock is at 17 minutes. So this is the instance of the content state. And you will use a JSON encoder, Swift default JSON encoder, to code something like this. And if you're really detailed about it, you can see in the content state, we have a dash. And we have match state, we have an underscore. And this is not a typo here. This is a trouble that we'll run into later that we'll talk about. But yes, let's do it for now. You will need this JSON to update your live activity. Okay, we have the payload now. Then you request the push token. It's quite easy when you start the live activity. This is how you start a live activity. You try a way to request with provide an attribute and content. It is specify I want a token. That's it. And the live activity you get back, you will have a sync stream, which just continues publish values. It will give you a push token. And what Apple says here is that the push token could change any time during the life cycle. So you need to update them accordingly. But according to our experience, is basically it will not change. But Apple says it can change, so yeah, you need to handle it. If it's update, remember to upload to your backend and update it. All right, so let's test it now. We have the token, and we have the token now. We have the payload. Let's try it out. So we don't do the backend stuff here. We just do an easy curl request here. With the header, here, something just need to notify is that for the topic and the push type, you have to have the live activity suffix on the back. And the data, the body, which is the payload that we have, and you send it to APN and hostname is basically just Apple's domain, and you send it. And after you send it, this is what you get, 200. Like, we all like to see 200, right? Everything's good. It says, we are completely uploaded and fine. Everything's good. But of course, nothing will happen. And okay, maybe there's something wrong. Let's try it again. We still get 200, but still nothing happens. The live activity does not update. So what do we do now? Now we start with the debugging. And as I mentioned before, live activities run in separate processes. We cannot attach the debugger. And so how do we debug? So apparently on the Mac app, probably you have used it before, there's a console app that you need to fire up, which look like this. A lot of logs. If you connect your device, you'll see, and start to screen logs, you'll like, and you probably cannot read it. It's like just too much, too fast, too many. But still, you select your device on the side, and then you search for this term, chronod. And how do we know it's this term? Yeah, just a lot of time spent on it to find out it's this one. But of course, eventually you found out this is the system process that handles all the widgets. So this is the keyword that you need to use. And then it will filter down to probably a few hundred logs that you have. Then you dig through the logs, then you'll probably find interesting stuff in the bottom here, which of course is not highlighted. I'll make it bigger, looks like this. Still hard to read, I will highlight it. Here you find the interesting stuff. No value associated with key coding keys. So if you have worked with decoding and encoding JSON in Swift before, you probably have encountered this. This means that when decoding the JSON to native Swift objects, this key match underscore state cannot be found. So this is missing the key. So the decoding fails. So this means when you send push notifications, the system gets that push notification, it tries to parse the JSON, it fails. And that's it, it stops. It fails because it stops, and then that's it. It doesn't notify your live activity, doesn't notify your main app, it just dies silently. Yeah, that's what happens here, and it's really, really hard to find out what happened. So, but yeah, this is the way with a lot of sweats and tears, and finally we found out here. And what happened here is there's an implicit thing that you need to know is that when decoding the JSON, system uses the system JSON encoder, but it also uses the default strategies. What is the default strategy? You ask in Swift code, we usually use camel case. So match state is the state is uppercase. And then when it converts to JSON, the default strategy is changes camel case to snake case. So it becomes underscore. So, but if when you're sending the push notifications, you're typing in the payload, you're making changes to see if it works, if you made a small mistake of underscore or dash, then it will fail completely. And you cannot tell the system to use other side of strategies in the JSON decoder. It just uses the default one. You cannot specify it. So that was the problem we encountered, and the pushes constantly just fail. It just not update. Yeah, and it's really, really hard to find out what happened. Another thing that we encountered as well is timestamp, because if you imagine, when we're testing, we're constantly sending pushes, and we update the content and say, okay, this is match 18, match minute 19, match minute 20. But if you forget to update the timestamp, the system will think, okay, this whole thing is new, even though the JSON is complete, the content state is completely different, doesn't care, it's the same timestamp, discards it. So your live activity does not update as well. So yeah, this is also a small thing that needs to take note of. This year in WWDC, this June, Apple announced something nice as well, the push console, which they promised a lot. This looks like this. So now, you don't need to use the command line to send the pushes, because when you use that, you also need to get the certificate, you need to generate the keys, the bearings, the authentication stuff. You don't need to do that here. In this console, you just select which app you want to send to, and just specify the payload. And it also has like nice stuff on the top, delivery logs, and like tools, some stuff. So we want to give it a try. But look closely here, where I will zoom in a bit. Here, you specify the APNS topic and the push type. And before, remember in the curl command, we need to append the live activity suffix in the back. But in this web tool, the push type, you can select live activity, but the topic is grayed out. You cannot change it for some reason. So this is still like this. A few days ago, I tried. So maybe next year we'll be able to use it. But for now, we need to stick with the old ways we have. So yeah. All right, the next thing, update frequency. So how often do we want to update the live scores? Of course, we want to update it when the score changes. We want to update it when there's a latest event. Someone scored, someone got a red card, someone get a yellow card. And we also want to update it when the match clock changes. Like here, you see on the right, it's the 8th minute. We want to change it to 9th, to 10th. We don't need by seconds, but we want the by-minute updates. So how do we do this? At first we thought this should be straightforward, right? Like the system timer, which shows on the lock screen. It does that quite nicely. And we found an API. It looks like this. SwiftUI, we used to build the live activity. It has 3 parameters. Time interval, you specify a start and end date, which will be a kickoff time and 4 to 5 minutes later. And pause time, we don't need to use that. And it counts down. We don't want to count down. We want to count up. Seems perfect. Here, I will show how it works when the screen is locked. So when the screen is not locked, it counts up quite nicely. You lock it, it counts up for a few seconds, then pause completely. And after you unlock, it jumps back to the correct time. So you can see on the right here, right now, it's the 4th second, 5th second, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and if you unlock it, it goes to 10, 6 directly to 10. So this is not great. This is probably will not work for us. This is the current behavior, and in previous version, it has even more crazy behavior. When it's locked, unlocked, it shows like this is 1 minute, 10 seconds. You lock it, it changed to 1 minute in text. So imagine seeing this as a live score 1 minute, 2 minutes. Like, all right, this does not work completely. Completely does not work for us. And we contact our Apple person, we file the report. We specify clearly what we want. You can see, oh, here, the system timer does it, right? Like if you lock the screen, the countdown keep continuing. It does not stop. We want this. And also, we would like to format the clock as well. Like we want to use the apostrophe to indicate this is a minute. We want to format it a bit. But we want this kind of behavior. And the Apple guy replied us quite quickly. And this is what it says. He says, I can tell you our guidance for this scenario will be to send regular push updates to your live activity. That's OK even if the user is tracking multiple games at the same time. This means we need to send 1 push per minute to update it. And as you can imagine, our backend guys are not super happy with that they will need to handle this case. And it's only for live activities. And it bears a lot of costs sending more push notifications. So they're not happy, but yeah, we just have to deal with it. And remember, the live activity itself is stateless. So every time we send a push content update, we need to include everything, including scores, the latest events we have to include in those pushes as well. So we cannot just send, OK, this match advanced 1 minute. We need to include everything, which means it makes it a little bit more complicated for the backend guys as well. So, yep. Error handling, since you can imagine we update the live activity only by push, there's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of things can break. For example, the code token upload. You start live activity, you go to the background, and you do uploads there. Many things happen there. The push notifications delivered by best effort, so Apple could drop it. It could be the internet connection on the device is not stable, so it could be delivered. So a lot of things can happen here, but the live activity itself, as we mentioned, it cannot send network requests, it cannot do anything, so it will not know what happened. So this is a major problem that live activity had from the start. Fortunately, by iOS 16.2, live activity was released on 16.1. But luckily, Apple kind of fixed it on 16.2. Now you can specify a new thing called the stale date, which means you tell the system after this date, if the live activity didn't get any updates, it's outdated. Show something to the user. Tell it's not outdated so the user can know. Yeah, so we did that. So this is how it looks. We specify that after 3 minutes, if after 3 minutes the live activity didn't get anything, we will show this outdated. Tap to see the latest updates. Like, not great, not super great, but yeah, this is what we have now. And after you tap it, you go to the main app, then the main app has logic to retry, to test internet connection, all kinds of recovery and try to do, or re-add the live activity. So that's what you have for now. Right, that's a lot. Now up to the iOS 17 stuff that will be released next month. Some good stuff with live activities. First thing I really like is the stand-up mode. So in stand-up mode, it looks like this. If your phone is charged, it's in landscape mode, it will show big information. But unfortunately, the live activity will only show very small on the top, and it's using the minimize state. I don't know why. There's a lot of screen that we can use, but Apple still restricted to really small stuff in the top, and also only shows one. For example, on iPhone, like portrait mode, it has more space. It shows 2, but here it just shows 1. Yeah, I don't know why, but that's not what we have. If you tap the small thing on the top, then you get to this thing where it expands to the full screen. Then you have lost real estate to work with, and this is basically the same as the lock screen or the expanded mode, which is pretty nice. Like once this is working, I imagine myself will be using it a lot. So just have it on the side, and then if something updates, I will know directly. So this is also really good with always on display on iOS 14 and up, since it will always be there. For previous devices, current behavior is still it will close the screen or turn off the screen completely. But I hope Apple will fix that soon. Next up, we also get iPad support on iOS 17. So we have more places to show them. That's always good. The same work, you have more exposure. Of course, that's good. And there's a lot of other stuff as well. Export previews, Apple promised a lot of stuff. Now you can preview different states, same as the UI tool we have before. Doesn't work well yet, still in beta. Let's hope it can be better. Apple also promised interactivity, which means you can, like the now playing live activity that I mentioned before, you can now have buttons in it, and you can react to that. But for now, we don't use it that much, so yeah, not that much use for us for now. And now you can start from intent. What does this mean is that you can start a live activity either from Siri. You can add this intent, and then your user will be able to call that intent through Siri, or you can have a shortcut to start the live activity. But we're still testing on that. We're not sure how we'll use it or release it, so not much to show right now. And lastly, some unexpected bonus. This was completely unexpected, is the install ads. So this is, I think all apps will still have to do this to get new users. We put some ads in like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. That's what mobile apps just have to do. And when you put in these kind of ads, you need to provide a screenshot of the app or video of how the app used. And every single ad, we have live activity included in the screenshot or in the video. The click-through rate is just super high. Like super high is probably like 2 times higher than any other stuff. Like we try like other places, other screenshots of the app, or like just not app, but like another video like regarding like football, showing football players or all kinds of stuff. We try all kinds of stuff, but just showing live activities just seems to get 2 times more click-through rate. We don't know why, but I guess the users just like it a lot. So a nice bonus of implementing this. Yeah, that's what I have today. I think we have like a few minutes if anyone has some questions. Or this is the QR code you can scan to try out the live activity that I was talking so much about today. So, yep, thank you.